Texas Revolution. The Texas Revolution was from 1821 to 1836. Once Mexico gained its independence, they wanted Americans to come over to Texas. Americans wanted to come over for the forests and the great fertile ground for farming. People from states around America would put signs on their doors that say GTT, which meant Gone to Texas. Mexicans thought that Americans would help defend this very fertile land from the Native Americans and settlers from the U.S. that would sneak in the land illegally. Stephen Austin, an American, had a land agreement with Spain when they owned the land. Stephen had a big chunk of it, but when Mexico took its independence from Spain, the land agreement became useless. He went to Mexico City to get a new agreement. It took a year, but he got his land agreement and started a colony. Mexican government became very strict and started to enforce a couple of laws. The first thing the Mexican government did was they closed off the borders so no more Americans could come over. Next, Mexico made the Texans pay taxes, and finally they sent troops over to enforce these laws. Texans were outraged by these laws, and they wanted to rebel and have their own country. There were 6 battles, each won 3. The most famous battle was the Alamo. In March of 1836, the battle for the Alamo began. Texas had 2 small armies compared to the Mexican army, who had more than 1,800 troops. After the gruesome battle, the Mexicans won, and there were only 5 survivors. They were executed. After the Battle of Alamo, Texans would yell in the battle, "Remember the Alamo." The war lasted about a year, but many were killed. Once Texans became independent, Sam Houston became president because of his great efforts in the war against Mexico. Texas didn't want to stay independent for very long, so they asked the U.S. if they could become a free state. Congress said no because Texas was a slave state, and if Texas did join, slave states would have an advantage in Congress. It could have also maybe led to war with Mexico. That is how the Texan Revolution happened. Our sources were a textbook.